I thought, what kind of terrible person am I that I'm sitting here at my uncle's funeral minding his life? I can't do that. And so I put it aside, but I can't stop thinking about it. And so about a year later, I called Ruth and I said, I have this idea. And I pitched on the basis of that. And she said, well, if that's how you think you'd like to spend your time. So I did.
Thank you.
I mean, you had never heard the story until...
No, not until then. I mean, I had always heard about all the incredible things my aunt had done, and as a kid, there's the quiet woman at the end of the Thanksgiving table eating her turkey very slowly, and it was sort of, I always found that sort of mesmerizing, that she's not a big, loud, outspoken person, and yet she did these incredible things, and I found that so fascinating, and I wanted to understand how she became the person who did the things that she did, and again, how they did it together, because that's, she was about the age that I am now.
Wow. And Mimi, how did the project come to you, and what not only compelled you to the story, but how did you go about putting together this amazing ensemble?
Well, yeah, that's a long story. I'll make it really short. Robert Court, the incredible producer, brought me the project, and I felt I had to do it. I had to make this movie. I felt so many commonalities with Ruth Bader Ginsburg in terms of, having many doors slammed in my face, being Jewish women, being in long-term marriages, breaking glass ceilings. I'm in no way comparing my work with RBG's, but there was commonalities in different generations, and she always inspired me. And then when I was sent the script, I didn't know really so much about her personal life, and I just completely knew I had to do it. And when I first heard the script, I had been working with my buddy here, JT, and I said, he has to be Mel Wolfe. This is all making her voice. And he has to do it. And of course, he didn't know anything about it. And it's really remarkable when you put a cast together and you pray and you hope that there will be chemistry among all of them. And when I met Kaylee, actually over Skype casting, I was like, who is this girl? We must have her. She's the one. And it's really interesting because my knowing of Jane Ginsburg was, just through everything I've read, through everything Daniel had spoken to me about. When I found obviously, Armie, it was really interesting, even if you don't even want to know this detail, but I was at your agency, so you don't even know this, and they presented all these actors, boom.
How many actors? Let's talk about that for a second.
Exactly, and I went, and then Armie's picture, I sent him, I went, he's the only guy who can play this character because Armie is so full of love and charm, and everything I began to learn about Marty was that he was the funny one, he was the charming one, and I thought this would be a great turn for you to, just find that side of you that is, because we know how dark you are, and just find that beautiful side of you. And then Felicity, oh my God, Felicity, was a gift from the gods. Honestly, your body of work, I knew instantly that you could absolutely embody this woman and not do an impersonation. We never set out to do that. And I had been a great admirer, and then we started to dig into RBG. It was just, the love affair began in terms of the research, the work, the accent, I know what accent, and the way she walked, the way she embodied her. And I was just very lucky that it all worked in great synchronicity.
What was your reaction when you got this script? Did you know, first of all, that Daniel was actually related to RBG, and you probably were hoping it was good, but it's always such a pleasant surprise when you're reading something really good about someone you care about, and you get excited going like, oh, thank God, it's good.
Yeah, it's always a bonus, and it doesn't happen very often to read these kind of screenplays, and I could tell it was good from my agent's reaction initially, even before I'd read it. I could just tell from the way they were on the phone and the excitement that they had that there was something really, really special about it. And then I read it very quickly, read it in one go, which again is rare because you know when something doesn't quite work, but you keep getting distracted and going off and making cups of tea and stuff like that. But that didn't happen with this. It was a very very easy read, and I think what Daniel had done was to write something that had an ideological core, but was also very, very entertaining and was funny and was extremely relatable in the sense that obviously Justice Ginsburg is this phenomenal woman and has got to this incredible position. But what's wonderful is all the flaws, all the things that don't go right, all the missing it, all the getting it wrong, and that's what the script fully explored and brought out this complex human being. And we were lucky to have Mimi, who created an environment where we could all really flourish, and it wasn't an environment driven by ego or competitiveness or any sort of disharmony. It was about creating a space where we could all do something and be proud of it, which was thanks to Mimi's great leadership.
And because you're not from America, as people may have figured out, how familiar were you with Ruth Bader Ginsburg? I mean, I feel like I only really got to know about her in the last 5 years when Kate McKinnon started impersonating her. In a weird way.
So well, I'd watched that.
She was the second choice, by the way.
You really watched it for reference?
No, I would just check occasionally. I'd go on YouTube and I'd just go and I think, in those early stages of preparation, I just think, I wonder what Kate did with this, So, keep coming back to it.
Yeah.
But I knew of her, but I didn't know in the detail that I do now.
And for the rest of you, what was it like when you got the script? Exciting, intimidating?
I mean, I think there is this sort of, there's sort of this feeling of all those Supreme Court justices where you feel like, oh my God, they live in this sort of cloistered place. They're almost like super priests or super rabbis where you go like, I don't understand how, so it was nice to just read something that just felt sort of straightforward and, just basically sort of, documented her as Felicity was saying, as a real person. They're obviously not born into this place. They come from something, and they come from their. It was interesting just to read how their personality, or how her personality got formed, and her obviously largely through her relationship, through her family, and through her marriage, and there's just it's kind of a peek behind the curtain that you really find interesting, and also just the historical, just seeing her progression was wonderful. So I enjoyed the script obviously.
Yeah, I loved seeing all the family moments in the story, and then also just for me reading the script, first of all, I didn't think I was going to get the part with all these amazing people that were a part of it. It was just like an education for me just to read this script that was so beautifully written, because unfortunately I really didn't hear much about RBG, so, and then it was just a cherry on top that I got the part, and meeting Mimi over FaceTime and her being so warm and loving and really took me step by step, because even though we don't know much about Jay, she's a real person, and I know she's going to see the movie, so it's still a little bit intimidating, but just super important script, and I'm glad I got to be a part of it.
I knew about RBG. I knew about sort of her legacy and law, obviously not to the extent that I learned about it in the course of making this film, but what really drew me to this was seeing a movie about a woman who changed the landscape of the world that we all live in, and not by having a superpower or anything like that, but just that she had a sense of devotion and dedication to what she did, and she really changed the world that we live in. I mean, not to say that it's completely changed, there's still obviously a lot more to go, but I think when Ruth started practicing law, she wouldn't have even been able to rent a car without her husband there to provide a driver's license or credit card or whatever. And now as and this sounds kind of corny, but as the father of a daughter, to give or to make a movie that my daughter can see where a woman changed the world, not because she was able to shoot laser beams out of her eyes, but just because she was that smart and she dedicated her brain to making the world better. That to me is the kind of movie I would love to give to my daughter. That you know, if she decided to spend her time in the same way, or dedicate herself in the same way, then who knows what the world could be. And then also now, I mean, obviously, you know, in the zeitgeistian sense of what's going on right now, we had no idea when we were making this movie, but still to put a movie forward where a husband could defy the gender norms of the 50s, 60s, and 70s and say, you know, I know that my wife has a very important mission that she is dedicated to, and if that means that I need to cook for the family, or I need to clean the house, or I need to get everyone ready for school in the morning. I mean, obviously Daniel can give, you know, more examples of that specifically because he's family, but to have a movie where we made a movie like this, where the example was put forth, where to be a successful and strong man maybe meant to support an incredible woman who had something incredible to do. I think that now, specifically in this time we're living, has a lot more to say, and I think that's a good thing to put forward in the world.
And how involved, if at all, was Ruth during, say, the writing process or even the development, or you all got to meet her, correct?
I haven't met her yet.
What?
I just haven't. I mean, it's
No.
not-
That was actually her request.
she was my acting coach.
It's a joke. That
Right, she said.
She did most of the lighting on this movie. She was a gaffer.
was very good. The first step of the process for me was she gave me access to all of her files from the 60s and 70s at the Library of Congress. And so by day, I would hang out at the Library of Congress, start digging through her files and reading her drafts of the brief and letters that she was exchanging with other people. And by night, we would sit together and drink way too much wine and talk about everything I had seen that day, and also talk about the marriage and what made it work and how did you do this. And you know, ostensibly I was asking for the movie, but really I'm just like, please tell me how do I achieve this in my own life? And then she, you know, I went off and wrote, and I finished the first draft, and I sent it to her and said, here's what I've done. What do you think? And she said, okay. Page 1. And then here on the first page you have me wearing heels, but in those days I used to walk to Harvard, so I would never have been wearing heels. I'm like, oh, this is going to be a It was endlessly fascinating, and to her credit, there was no ego. There was never a note that was like, oh, this makes me look bad. There was never, it was always she wanted the law to be right, and she wanted the way the law is practiced to be right. And she wanted Marty to be right. But when it came to herself, you know, I said, you kind of make a mistake here. And she goes, oh, well, it's more dramatic that way. It has to be there. You know, and it was great. It was really, you know, she's my aunt, but she's 50 years older than I am. And so it was like we got to really know each other for the first time. It was really, I only wish I had done it when Marty was alive.
And what was it like? Did you all go, well, except for Justin, we all know he wasn't invited.
Yeah, again, I did not get to meet Ruth Bader.
We had a great time in DC.
Yeah, I know. I heard it was great. I heard all about it. It sounded fabulous.
So did you all go to meet her in DC?
Well, we were shooting the final scene in DC, and Felicity, you know, walks up those steps, and then becomes RBG, and then RBG arrives, and I was standing in front of the Supreme Court steps when I came up with that idea for the end of the film, because the end of the film was a little different, and
I was about to give you the credit.
yeah, so, and, you know, I was standing there just thinking like, RBG has to be in the movie, and we have to ascend, the young RBG has to ascend to who she has become. And so I spoke to Danielle and said, let's do this, and I love this idea, and
And
wanna
I
do
said,
it.
if you shoot it, you better put it in the movie, because I don't want to have to explain to her what
And people were a little dubious about it, like, really? They're going, really? It's really important. This is how we have to end the movie. And Ruth, Justice Ginsburg said, yes, and she did it. And she was extraordinary, and that was an extraordinary day when we were there.
Oh, can I ask a question? How long did it take to shoot that section? Was it like
About
was
an
there time
hour,
budgeted?
and yes, and I was 3 takes in, and she said, "You have 1 more." Just like an actor.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, is she Taft-Hartley now? Is she in the
She has a SAG card, yeah.
So did you
It's
guys?
available.
Did you?
Kind of compares to a lifetime appointment at the Supreme Court. You know, it's part and parcel.
Did you not meet her until you were already shooting the movie, or did you meet her before?
No, we met before.
Oh, okay.
We went and we went to Washington DC. We went to visit Ruth in her chambers. And she was incredibly welcoming. She couldn't take her eyes off Armie. And then we started off, because it's a bit intimidating at first, we started off talking about cooking and food, and there was a book that had been made of all Marty's recipes, because he was a fantastic cook. So she was very proudly handing that to Armie, and then later on, Armie hosted a little dinner, and we ate some of the recipes. We ate some of the food that were in the recipe book, which was a nice sort of link back to when we'd first met Ruth.
Did you invite Ruth to that, or she?
No, we didn't.
Oh.
We were in Montreal.
She had better things to do.
She was saving the world. So, you know.
I think maybe if you had invited her, she would have come. And for each of you, what ended up being sort of the most challenging part of making this movie? I mean, you really don't want to mess it up when it's someone who's still alive and as iconic as Ruth Bader Ginsburg. So I'm imagining just the pressure was insane, but you know, maybe there's a particular scene that when you were writing, you struggled with more than others.
Sure. Want to take it?
Well, since I wrote it, sorry, you know, the scene that everyone asks me about is the sex scene.
We have a good story about that.
Yeah, well, I called Ruth, and no, just kidding. Mimi insisted that I had to rewrite it. She's like, yes, you absolutely did.
I directed the scene, and you know, we did a very safe version, and then you know, then we did kind of a risque version, not risque in our days, but you know, in our time. But you know, Armie pulls her onto his lap, and they're kissing, and so I cut this really hot like scene between them, and then I was like, oh God, I can't, you know, oh no, you know, what's the justice gonna think? And so the version you see is the safer version, but the funny part of the story is.
You should have seen the risque version.
And on behalf of my family, thank you for cutting it out.
Yeah. Well, because you know, all I kept thinking about, you never think about these things, but you think about, well, she's gonna be sitting there watching it, what is she gonna think? And you know.
I think, can I rehearse with Armie?
So we're after the screening with Justice Ginsburg. We're at a dinner, and her official biographer was there, and she said, "Oh my God, the sex scene!" And like it was so much, and I was like, "Well, you should have seen it before." And then all eyes go to RBG, and she just looks up and said, "I'm fine with it." It was funny.
And I should say, and she loves the film. She absolutely loves the film. She loves his performances. And the thing that she said to me, she loves most of all is that it is so joyous. She said that's what it felt like. She said that's my memory of it. Is that we weren't. It wasn't that we were angry. It wasn't that we were despondent. It's that we were so optimistic that the country was becoming better, and that we were at the forefront of that. And and she was so grateful to Mimi and to the cast, and I'd like to think to me, that the film captured that feeling. Wouldn't it be nice to make a movie that optimistic about tomorrow, like
Yes,
this one was about yesterday?
okay, so
Tuesday.
vote, Tuesday. But the one thing she said to me, one of the things she said to me was, I can't imagine anyone playing me as magnificently as Felicity did. She was extremely moved, beyond.
Is it, I mean, at a time when it is hard to sort of not be despondent, how does it feel to be releasing a movie like this that does hopefully give people hope and remind us that, like, one person can change the world? And she kind of is a superhero, actually. Her brain is like its own superpower.
Well, I guess it's up to you guys. What do you think? Does it? Yeah, I mean, we hope that it feels hopeful, that it feels that no matter who you are or where you're from, that you have the power to make change.
I want to take some questions from the audience. If you have one, just raise your hand. Yeah, right there.
Oh, first of all, yes, best superhero origin story.
Yeah.
Loved it. But the second thing is, since there is so much more of RGB's life, is there any, and you never think about this in the biography, but is there a chance for a sequel? Or a continuation?
Well, we all signed 3 picture deals, so.
Only 3?
Yeah.
Spin-offs and everything.
More capturing other stories. Because this
Well, there's many you could make, for sure.
I know.
But this is a movie about how change can happen. And at this point, this is it. For now.
No, there's going to be a sequel. Come on, Mimi.
I'm still just glad I get to go to Thanksgiving this year.
I was going to say, thank goodness she loved it. That would make family reunion.
It would have been terrible, I know. At
I'm gonna give a little insider baseball here, but Daniel
good.
said while we were at dinner that Justice Ginsburg has seen the movie multiple times, and every time she's seen it, she says she likes it more and more every time. So
with big hugs, it's really,
It's really something.
It's her E.T. is what I.
Sure, over there.
Boo.
Yes, wonderful movie, well done, well done. Just to Daniel, I'm curious why we never heard about the cancer. It was mentioned once, and then it kind of petered. I wanted to hear where it went. Like, how did he get over it? How come he didn't pass away like they thought he was? Could you answer that?
Marty's cancer. It's funny, when I was writing, the first time I wrote those scenes, I thought that Dr. Ledbetter would be a good opportunity, which by the way is his real name, it wasn't a Lily Ledbetter reference. I thought, oh, this would be a great opportunity to show sort of the way men treated young women in that era. And I wrote that scene, and it was one of the few sort of big notes she gave on the script was, he saved your uncle's life, you need to get him right. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do with that note? And the terror of the internet is that I found his nephew, who happened to have the same name, who was a resident with his uncle and performed Marty's surgery. And so I actually got to ask him that question. I got to ask, and so Ledbetter was really ahead of his time. He was the kind of guy who would tell you the odds. I think that the fact of the matter is he had invented this new way of treating testicular cancer at the time, this combination of radiation and so the odds that he's giving are the odds that had been the odds up to that point, but this was a brand new surgery, and in Marty's case, it worked.
Wow. I want to go over here.
Thank you.
Sure. Well, yeah, appreciate the questions about making legalese sound interesting and maybe.
You get great actors.
Yeah. Well, I
and
remember.
great writers. And great directors.
All right.
Maybe all your time on ER, I mean, I had no idea what those doctors were saying at the time.
Well, nobody
I was
did.
on the edge of my seat.
It didn't
Half of
really
it was
matter.
made up, right?
It was like, it didn't matter. It's how they said it.
I mean, did you guys really understand everything you were saying? Did you have consultants to help you out? Or?
Well, actually, I was worried that the case would always be too complicated. Interestingly, I thought it was because obviously the gender is reversed. You expect her to be fighting a case championing women, and I did worry that somehow in the narrative, in the screenplay, that it might somehow be confusing, but somehow it wasn't. In the watching of it, you don't get too you're very much engaged with the emotion of the case without getting too hung up on the kind of legalities and the particular beats.
Also, not forgetting, I mean, this is a huge credit to Daniel and me and also the actors, which is, it's not like it's a murder trial; it's a tax law case. It's like,
Exactly.
bring a book, so to sort of write that and make that interesting, the secondary thrust of that case, which is of course, the gender discrimination, is really sort of the driving heart behind it. So as long as you sort of understand that idea, you're understanding the rest of it. Sort of the practicalities and the amounts don't really matter.
Well, I want to give Justin credit because you called me before production and we went through all those scenes and you were like, let's talk about every single one of these. We were like, what's going on here? What's going on here? What are we doing here? What are we doing here? And it was, and we just,
Yeah, we went through the script because I had just a bunch of mouthfuls and stuff, and I was like, I didn't understand. I mean, I understood sort of the process, but I didn't understand what he was talking about. How, like, even just the ACLU attaching their name to the brief, and then like, why would that be? Like, well, that's the name that you would want attached to the brief, so it would get heard, that kind of thing.
and through the process, the writing got clearer because those became writing notes. And I know that you guys were doing the same thing in rehearsal because I was getting the notes from you.